So in Jesus' name. So while we are waiting for other persons, like I said, I want us to be 50. I'm going to be randomly picking 5 persons. So it's going to be randomly picking. I want you to unmute yourself and you're going to tell me what you believe you're going to take away from this program. And because we are going to be talking about relationships and emotions, if you don't mind, I want you to comment whether you're single or you're in a relationship. So I'm going to be taking, mentorship relationship. So are you having a mentor or you're not having a mentor yet? I'm going to be picking 5 persons quite randomly. So Adedoyin Tinu Oye, if I got your name correctly, Adedoyin Tinu Oye, if you can hear me, please unmute yourself. I want you to tell me what you believe you're going to take away from this program and whether you have a mentor or not. Can Adedoyin Tinu Oye hear me? Okay, then I'll just
yes.
Okay, yeah. That she has unmuted.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I would like to know what do you believe you would take away from this program tonight?
Well, basically to gain more understanding gain insight on understanding emotions, like how people's reacting and stuff like that, child.
Thank you. Do you have a mentor or not?
I don't.
Thank you very much, Adedoyin Tinoye. I think the second person I'm going to call Nancy. Once again, if I've not called your name, please, I would appreciate it if you mute your line. Mr. Folabi, we know that you have a wonderful online presence, but please, can you mute your mic? Yes, thank you very much. Ogunleke Jane. Oluwatofumi Akonde. Yes, good evening, Oluwatofumi Akonde. Please, can you unmute yourself and answer the question? What do you believe is going to be your biggest takeaway from this program? Well, I'm supposing she was locked. So, Janet, Ogunleke Janet. Please, can you unmute yourself and just tell us what do you believe is going to be your biggest takeaway from this program? Ogunleke Janet.
Okay, hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Okay, one of the things I expect to take away from this class is that I will have more understanding about how to relate with people from different walks of life and different perspectives about life. Basically, learning more about relationships. Yes, that's it.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Very randomly, do you have a mentor or not?
I do.
Okay, thank you very much, Janet. I'm going to be calling on Oladownsi Mercy. Oladownsi Mercy. Yes, please.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, I want to learn about emotions. I want to learn about ways to control certain emotions even when provoked. Yes, and also relationships, because many people nowadays they don't give true meaning to relationships any longer. So I really just want to know more about relationships and about mentorship. No, I don't have mentor.
Thank you very much
for now. I don't.
I think that's a different perspective. Something new I'm hearing, that people don't give true definitions to the word relationship. Thank you once again. I'm going to be calling on Oluwasemiye Owolabi. Oluwashemiye Owolabi, if you can hear me right now, please, I would appreciate if you unmute yourself and you answer the question. What do you believe is going to be your biggest takeaway from this program?
Good
Oluwashemiye
evening.
Owolabi. Hi, good evening.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. So I hope to gain mastery of the principles that govern an excellent relationship, and I hope to learn how to engage more effective ways of handling my emotions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. And the last person is going to be Faith Ifunayachi. Faith Ifunayachi, if you can hear me, I would appreciate it if you unmute your mic. Faith Ifunayachi, please, can you hear me? Well then, if not, if Faith can't hear me because of time and because this is going to be a very interactive program, we're just going to be moving on to the next thing. But then before we move on to the next thing, anybody please feel free to answer. Who knows the reason why the boy threw the clock out of the window? Just unmute yourself. Who knows the reason why the boy threw the clock out of the window? I'm seeing Esther's hand up. Do you want to answer the question? Well, then I'm supposing that nobody knows the answer. Are you saying anything? Because he gave boys those things, the medicine, they not return it. Is you that left hand now? They're very choppy. No. I would have to mute our mic if you are not answering the question. Well, I'm supposing that nobody knows the answer. The answer is because he wanted to see time fly. That is the answer. Well then, I'd just like to call on the convener of this program, Praise Ogunleke, to give a forward. So, Mr. Praise Ogunleke, if you're hearing me, please feel free to unmute yourself now.
Hello, everyone. Hello, good evening. So I'd like to confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
I hear you. We can hear you. Good evening.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. So today I want to welcome you all to this virtual event. I count it a very huge privilege learning together with people, and especially learning from someone who I consider a past master on this subject, relationships and emotions.
Okay, lively.
The first time I listened to JD, I think it was in 2019, I think. And, I didn't know him personally. So when I entered, I remember that I just had a very different feeling. When you listen to someone and you know that benefited from the past, right? So that was exactly what happened that very day. When God brought this idea on my mind, I was looking at who was going to be able to delve into the intricacies of this subject in a way that people can understand, right? Because I've discovered over time that people have issues with relationships, like how to build relationships, quality relationships. Now, if you study great men, you see that there are certain things that make a difference in their lives. And there are two major things. One, quality information. Second, quality relationships. But when it comes to quality relationships, people do not always know how exactly to build this relationship. And there are people that have to build this relationship, but are not certain of how to maintain relationship. So in my conversations with people over time, I've noticed that people have this challenge, and this is one of the reasons why we are having this event today. So, I mean, there are different dimensions to it. We have the mentor-mentee relationship. But at the point I was trying to also get a mentor, it was quite difficult. And I've discovered that mentorship is really how exactly to get a mentor, how exactly to support you. And if you want to not be a parasitic mentor, a parasitic mentee rather, how are you supposed to go about it? So these are things I want to talk about. How are you supposed to reach out to potential people believe that everybody just wants to get connotations from them, and be very it can be very devastating. Then when it comes to romantic relationships, a lot of people, even though they are not in a relationship, don't know what exactly to do. I believe that you don't prepare for a battle on the day of the battle. You prepare for a battle, you know, way before the battle. So even if you're not in a romantic relationship yet, this is an opportunity for you to learn exactly what you can start doing so that you will get things right. Yes, I think that's the word. And for platonic relationships, how exactly are you supposed to build relationships, in your neighborhood, in your workplace, in your school? All these relationships are also very important, and you cannot sideline any of them. And how to manage your emotions, how to be emotionally intelligent even while dealing with people, all of those things are important. So these are some of the reasons why we're going to be having this conversation today. And I'm sure that JD is going to do a very fantastic job communicating this subject to us. So yes, I think I should say this. Today is my birthday, and this is how I am marking my birthday. So I would really appreciate if we can pay attention, because we're about to learn something massive. So everyone, thank you very much once again for joining. It's honestly a very huge privilege. I am so grateful. So thank you very much. That'll be it from my end.
Thank you very much, Praise. And once again, happy birthday, Praise Ogunleke. If you find it needful, because I do believe all of us will find it needful, please could we type in the comment section, happy birthday, Praise. I would have said we should unmute ourselves to sing, but because of connection problems, I would not say that. But please do type it in the comment box, happy birthday, Praise. Yes, thank you very, very much. Quite randomly, why do some couples not go to the gym? Feel free to type your answers. Why do some couples not go to the gym? Okay, I feel like I'm going to be the one giving the answer to my dry jokes. Anyways, it's because the relationships do not work out. Okay, you didn't hear the question clearly. Why do some couples not go to the gym?
Okay.
And the answer is because the relationships do not work out. To move on quickly, the format of our talk today is going to be quite simple. A quick teaching by a guest speaker, Mr. Jesudamilare Adesegun-David. And then the floor would be open for questions. Please, during the question time, onboarding your heart, platonic friendships among same and opposite sex, genders, questions, romantic relationship questions, parent to child, mentor to mentee, please feel free to ask all. So without further ado, I would be introducing our guest speaker for tonight, Mr. Jesudamilare Adesegun-David, popularly known as JD. When Mr. Ogunleke told me about me reading the bio of Mr. Jesudamilare, he said he doesn't need any bio recital because his words and his actions would speak for him. So in light of that, I would just quickly tell you that he's a son, is an emissary, he's a wordsmith, is an herald of creative craftsmanship, and an educator and a sojourner in Agape. Good evening, sir. If you can hear me, please, I would love to have a response.
Oh, amazing. Good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Awesome.
How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing very good.
Thank you very much for choosing to hold this discussion with us. In light of the Paris Diaries that you ran on your Facebook page, I welcome you once again, in the language of love, because we like to say that Paris stands for love. So, bienvenue, Mr Jesudamilare. Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci. Et tout? Yeah.
Bien, merci, merci. Nous sommes contents de vous avoir ici.
Interesting. Now that is beyond my pay scale. Right?
It basically means we are glad to have you here.
Merci, Mademoiselle Marvelous Adelaja.
Yes. Merci. It's over to you now, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Amazing stuff, right? This conversation we just had right now could actually give you a slant on what how I call it, like, that could give you a slant into how, relationships are formed, relationships are built. Basically, everybody's in a relationship, whether you chose them or you didn't choose them. So you either have relationships that by default you are in them, or you have relationships that you worked for, you worked towards, okay? So I wouldn't want to go, that high level immediately. Thank you very much for this privilege, praise. Happy birthday to you today. I believe it's wisdom that makes a young man decide that his birthday will count in the building of other people. That's wisdom, right? That's wisdom. That you choose, right, consistently over time, that every of your birthdays will be, indelibly impacted or imprinted on the hearts of people, that they gained value. Amazing. That's wisdom. So I really appreciate you today, and I celebrate you for that step you've taken in ensuring that, your birthday is a moment of reflection, is a moment of empowerment, and a period of, people coming into better expressions of their lives. So thank you so much, Marvelous, for that amazing work you've been doing. I saw you, having to answer the questions of, the puzzles we were putting out. You had to answer them yourself, right? And that's because, some of these puzzles sometimes, they could fly over our heads, that kind of thing, right? So where they make such jokes, right, is more like in the Western world. So the Western world use, okay. Can you mute your microphones, please? Thank you. Mute the microphones. Thank you so much. I'll be glad. So so those kind of jokes or puzzles, they are witty and they are very on the surface. They are not too obvious, right? And I don't know. I would like to say that your mind must be very fine for you to actually be at home with such puzzles and jokes and stuff. So diving into what we are here for, we're talking about relationships and emotions. Now, this is a timeless topic. Every generation has had to deal with relationships. Every generation has had to deal with emotions. Emotions don't tell you before they come knocking. Emotions can creep on you. They can creep on you, right? And so, for instance, you meet somebody, and initially that person is not really a person. That person is not really a how I call it. That person is not really a like the person, for instance, somebody, a young man might say, hey, I like fair ladies, and all of that. And then it gets to 500 level. And when it gets to 500 level, he happens to now have a lady who is sitting beside him. And then she writes her notes very well, is able to, how I call it, ask questions, is able to ask questions from the lady for, how did the lecture go today? Or what's the area of concentration and all of that. And when that young man keeps doing this with the young lady, over time, he might just discover that, I'm beginning to feel fond of this lady, right? He tells himself, nah, she's not my specs. I mean, this is not the kind of person I'm looking for and stuff like that. But over the time, right? Over time, he just discovers that when another young man begins to come close to that lady, it feels uneasy. It feels like, hey, you're invading my space and all of that. But he didn't say anything to himself that he even liked the girl. He only began to grow fond of her over time, and the emotions began to build up. They began to build up in him to the point where he is now feeling jealous or feeling envious, right, of any other person coming into the lady's space, right? So he didn't plan, right, for the emotions, but it crept up on him. A lot of us have gone through that phase. We've been through that. Some of us might be even going through that right now, where somebody we thought, I can't, I don't know this person. I don't want to have anything to do with this person. But before you know it, you begin to wait for the person's phone call. When the person, sends you a message, you read the message again and again and again and again, right? And then you're wondering what is happening to you. What is happening to you is not new. There is nothing new under the sun. It has happened to everybody, right? It is happening to everybody. So people have emotions when people are in relationships. For instance, you didn't choose your parents. Your parents, right, gave birth to you, right? Even they might not necessarily have chosen you, but when you arrived, they received you as you came, right? So they didn't have the option of saying, oh, okay, so what we want to do is that we want this our child to be 6 foot tall. We want him to, have 6 packs from the womb and all of those things. I mean, they didn't have that choice, right? But when you arrived, they had to embrace you. And then you grew up and discovered that this is my family. But that relationship you have with every member of your family is one where you had no choice. It was given to you. It is by default you came to have your family as your family. However, the fact that you didn't have a choice about those who are your family does not mean that you don't have a choice about the relationships you build going forward. I really, really would like to, dwell more on the question and answer session. So I'm just going to give you a sort of overview of, what this topic is all about. So I'm going to share a story with you. So I schooled in Warri, right? High school, secondary school. So I schooled in Warri, and Warri was very far from Ibadan. My parents were in Ibadan. I was in Warri, and, it was all good. It was all awesome, right? And I mean, I was very smart, right? So I had very good grades and stuff like that. So my first 3 years in Warri, I was being very adamant that I was not going to speak Pidgin English, right? Number one, I wasn't going to speak Pidgin English. Reason being that I felt like the moment I started speaking Pidgin English, my spoken English would get corrupted. So I refused. And by that decision not to speak Pidgin English, I was kind of like, preserved from a category of people. So my friends were very good friends. Like there were people that were forward thinking. There were people that wanted to make something out of their lives. But I observed that by not speaking Pidgin, I was getting cheated a lot. And seniors were beating me a lot. So I felt like, hey, it seems, this decision to stay pure without speaking Pidgin English is, costing me a whole lot. So what happened was that when I resumed in SS1, I decided that, hey, we're going to do this together. So myself called a blow off that kind of thing. We call it talker. We call it, that kind of thing, right? So wafi, what did it happen now? That kind of thing. Like we began to say all of those things. And before you knew it, I don't know, language kind of shapes a person's life. So as I kept speaking, the new circle of friends I began to have, right, began to be more like, guys who were a bit, ras, guys who were a bit, were a bit, who had different vices, right, that, they embraced. Now, SS1. Most people resume SS1 with their voices beginning to break. So your voice is breaking. I had 10 A's, 1 C in GS3, the GSC exam, 10 A's, 1 C. The C was in French. And that was because my French teacher made me eat French, right? But I still tried my best to get, a C. Whereas the Yoruba language that would have made it 11 A's, 1 C was, our results were not released. So I had very good grades. I was this amazing guy. First term SS1, I had the best results across the entire SS1. I had a grade 6 result. That means I had a minimum of 6 A1s in the major science subjects. But things began to, spiral as time went on. Things began to spiral as time went on. Now, the first thing that began to spiral was this. As my friends began to, introduce me more to, this concept of being a hard guy, right? One of the things it did to me was that it suddenly shifted my priorities. It shifted my priorities. It affected my confidence, even in reading and all of that. And I was more attuned to now cheating in exam halls. By the time I was leaving secondary school, in my NECO exams, I had written a whole lot in agricultural science, but because it had now become a norm to cheat in the exam halls, I had gone to carry a full textbook, right? It was about 30 minutes to the end of the exam. I just went, to where all the bags were and then smuggled the textbook and brought it back into the hall. The bags were in the hall. I brought it to my seat and then I opened it and stuff like that. And this happened for a while, such that when I graduated from FGC Warri, the results I had were not good by my normal standards, but for people, they were good. But one of the things that affected me was that I was always in doubt about the quality of my mind, because basically all the things I had done had been done through exam malpractice, right? Yes, I studied, I read and all of that, but I didn't do any exam without having to do exam malpractice, right? But where it affected me most, where it hit me most was when I was to write my SAT, that was the Scholastic Aptitude Test, right? And this exam was over 1,600. And so in the exam hall that day, I had a friend who was very far from me. So we had a section where it was like theory. You had to fill in the answers by yourself, not pick a choice out of a multiple choice question kind of thing. And then the next thing I did was this. I asked my friend, I signaled to him and told him, I said, hey, this number. And that was how he typed the answer on his calculator, or what he supposed was the answer, and lifted it up for me to see. I couldn't make out exactly what was on the screen, but I decided, that, this must be what I'm seeing. And then I wrote it down. Now look at where the problem came in. By the time I got my result, I got 1,400 over 1,600. But till tomorrow, I'm always asking myself, was it that answer my friend gave me that perfect number, that round figure, 1,400 over 1,600? Or was it what I did by myself? I discovered that till today, I could not answer. So in a way, I feel like that result is not entirely mine. Now, where am I driving out? Where am I driving to with this? The moment you come of age, one of the most important areas of your maturity is in choosing the people you work with, is in choosing the relationships you come into, the relationships you embrace. Very, very important. And by the time I start answering questions, because I feel like the questions will really, guide me, right, in being able to help you very, very well tonight, right? Because there's a lot of things I could talk about. I could speak 4 hours on a single thing, right? But it might be helping one person or 50% of people on this call, and yet might not be helping the rest, right? But in the questions, because they are from different areas, I believe so strongly that you're going to find a lot of applications to your peculiar situations. Now, the next thing that happened, right, to me, and I'm going to share this, right? when I was to meet my wife, right? So I'm going to share relationships, emotions, and stuff. So I came to Lautech. I wasn't meant to come to Lautech, but I came to Lautech. I feel like one of the greatest gifts I got from Lautech was my wife, right? So my wonderful wife, my beautiful wife, like the greatest. In fact, I feel like after God, she was the greatest gift I found in Lautech. Sincerely, right? If I had schooled somewhere else, maybe not. I wouldn't have met her, but I'm glad I met her. So you know what happened? I came for pre-degree entrance, and then I was meant to join a fellowships tutorial. So I had arrived early at the tutorial. I sat down, and then I think the teacher was already teaching us. Suddenly, this young lady just walked into the auditorium where we were having the tutorial. And I don't know why. I wasn't thinking of anything, but it was as if they used hot iron, right, to inscribe that picture on my heart. That was in 2006, right? This is 2022. That's 16 years ago. I can still remember exactly how she entered that hall, like how she entered that hall. I can still remember how she walked. It didn't feel like she was walking. It felt like she was floating, right, when she came in, right? And that just struck me. But at that moment, I mean, like, it never even crossed my mind that we're going to get married. I just knew that, hey, this person entered, and I can, like, the way she entered was significant. That was just it. And then over time, you know, we're in the same, you know, we're in the same level. Anyway, I came in through post-UTME after all. So we're in the same level. And then we had all the conversations, you know, we had this friendship that kept, you know, growing and growing. And at some point, we were friends, best friends. But she told me that, hey, you are not, I don't think you feature in my future, right? Like, I'm not seeing you as my husband, right? And that crushed me. I mean, I don't know how many of you have experienced something like that, but that was crushing, right? So yes, somebody that you loved, that, you know, you felt like, hey, our lives were perfect together, that, I mean, I can't imagine living with the rest of my life with any other person. Now that person tells you point blank that, sorry, I don't want you to get your hopes up. I know that is, you know, somewhere in your heart that, you know, you see us in the future, but no. And then it wasn't just that. It was actually that she had her eyes on another person. Amazing. That was a major one. But today, I've been married to her for 9 years. Isn't that amazing? So how did I go from the person who was not wanted or who was not in the picture to the person who became most wanted? And then who is now the love of our life, you know, our husband and the father of, you know, our 3 children and all of that. Now, I'm going to be able to answer most of these questions within the context of, I mean, most of this, I'm going to answer them within the context of the questions that are going to be asked. So now, a very quick one I want to ask you. If you were to multiply yourself, right, into all your friends, if you were to multiply yourself into all your friends, and all your friends were yourself, do you feel like you will love to have yourself around? Now, that's a very quick question I need to ask, because you see, the truth about emotions and relationships is that it starts with you first. Before you know it, if you are not yet, you know, settled about yourself, if you are not yet aware, self-aware, you won't know how to handle relationships, whether it is mentor-mentee relationship, whether it is, you know, platonic relationships, whether it is even a romantic relationship. I mean, when I say romantic, I'm not an advocate of premarital sex. No, I am one who advocates for no sex until marriage, right? That kind of thing. A romantic relationship in that context for someone who is not yet married is that you are actually looking towards marriage and stuff like that, right? Which other kind of relationship? You have coach training relationships. You have, you know, just, you know, brother-sister relationship and all of that. But the first key to having beautiful relationships is self-awareness. You can't build authentic relationships. You can't build relationships where you know your boundaries and you know the boundaries of other people when you are not self-aware. Let me give you a quick illustration. There was a young lady while I was an undergraduate. while I was an undergraduate. So this young lady, she loved touching people, right? And, whether male or female, if she wants to talk, she has to grab hold of you. She has to touch your hand. She has to, hold your back and all of that whenever she wants to talk with you. So one day I had to, call her attention and said, hey, do you realize that anytime you talk with people, you touch them? And then she was like, oh no, like I'm not aware of that. And then I told her that she should, study herself a bit. And when she did, she was able to recognize. Okay. And when she studied herself, she was able to recognize that she had been touching people. Now, that touching as a sign of, hey, like, I think this lady is interested in me, right? I think this lady is interested in me. But that was not what she meant at all. Meaning that her self-awareness was already costing her something. It was already putting her in a difficult situation. Where because a young man feels like, oh, if a person doesn't like you, they don't touch you. So now this lady is touching people. And so the next thing is that guy feels like, oh, why is she touching me? And then it begins to feel like, hey, it means that she has, she has designs on me. She's interested in me and all of that, right? So self-awareness is very crucial. Now, one of the ways to become self-aware, okay, so Deborah, can you mute your microphone, please? Deborah, you can just mute your microphone. Thank you. So, when you want to progress in having healthy relationships, you need to be self-aware, right? And now, as I mentioned, I'm going to try to give you a quick assignment. I gave you already, but I want you to look at it again. Now, if all your friends were you, would you like them? Would you like to have them around consistently? If all your friends were you, would you like to have them consistently around you? I want to see some answers in the comment box. So you could just, drop answers in the comment box. Let me see what you're saying, right? So let me see what you're saying in the comment box. Yeah. So I'm expecting people to just let me know if all your friends were you, right? How would you feel? Would you feel like you have won the jackpot? Or would you feel like, you are in a second in another L, right? Come on, talk to me. Is somebody responding? Hey, people are scared. All right. So, you could actually be very, Anifat Bello said it will feel amazing, right? Fumi said no. And then Marvelous said 50%. Faith said, well, partially. Theophilus said 50%. I know Esther said it will be boring for me. Ifeolu Agbola said, not fully. Amazing stuff. Mary said it will be boring. Okay. Eunice said, I will feel progressive, actually 65%. Ibrahim Karibat said, yeah, I would definitely like to be with myself as a friend over and over again. Okay, boring, partly yes and partly no. Thank you very much, everybody who has actually commented. Now, the interesting thing is this. The truth is that you cannot, the truth is that self-awareness, right, helps you to know that you can't afford to have yourself as your friends, full circle. Like self-awareness helps you to know that. Because yourself, there are a lot of things about yourself that you don't, you're working at, that you don't feel like you want, other people to now, bring into the picture, right? So for instance, if you're somebody who finds yourself, to procrastinate a lot, and then all your friends also are procrastinators, that will be a massive, massive issue for you. You'll realize that there will be nobody to actually push you to do things, to accomplish stuff. So you're all going to be saying, hey, let's do it tomorrow. Hey, 2 hours time. Hey, come, let's, see Eternals first. Let's see Eternals, the movie first, before, we get to that point where we'll do this assignment. And then after Eternals, hey, let's go to, August Brothers. Let's eat shawarma. And then it just keeps going like that until you've not done anything you're meant to do. Now, there are two ways to it. So number one, you want to be sure that your person, you have actually worked on yourself to the point that indeed, if all you could live with was people that looked exactly like you will still be able to have a good life, a beautiful life, even though there will be some areas where you feel like, hey, I mean, it could be better. But again, self-awareness will also help you realize that, hey, I need variety. Variety is very essential for me to, become the best I want to be. So now the question I want you to, I want you to answer this question wherever you are. Like if you have a sheet of paper or even on your phone right now, can you list 3 things that you feel that makes you a gift to the world? What are the 3 things that make you a gift to the world? Like what are 3 things that make you a gift to the world? Can you just write it? So you could say that it's my resilience. You could say that it's my sense of humor. I make people laugh, and this is amazing, right? You could say that, hey, it's because I'm very patient, right? So you write 3 things that you feel like, are reasons why you're a gift to the world. Okay? 1 minute more for you to write that. Obviously, it should come to your mind, easily, but then I'm just going to take some more time for you to be able to write that. Okay, it's not yet 1 minute. Let's say we have about 30 seconds more. 3 things, just 3 things. And there's a reason, right? We don't have too much time in this session to be able to take a deep dive, right? I would have loved to share with you about auditing your life in relation to relationships. Very important, but I'm giving you a summary view of how you can do it. So 3 things. Okay. Now, after the 3 things that make you feel like you're a gift to the world, write 3 things that you know that you yourself are not comfortable with, right? Write 3 things that you know that you yourself are not comfortable with. Like, hey, this stuff, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that I do this, right? I don't like the fact that I do this. So write 3 things. You could write it in your notepad on your phone, or if you feel like you want to show everybody, you could put it in the chat. 3 things that make you feel like, nah, this is not the ideal way to live and stuff like that, right? This is not the ideal way to live at all. So 3 things. Cool. Now, if you've written those 3 things, that can serve as a framework for you. The truth is that relationships are built on, as I mentioned, self-awareness. So you know yourself, you know who you are. And then if you can be someone that knows who you are, then it becomes easy to know another person. It becomes easy to know that, oh, okay, the last time I told this person that, I don't like how your makeup is. The person felt embarrassed. Now you will realize that while you like direct feedback, somebody else doesn't like direct feedback. They prefer indirect feedback, right? So let me give an example. I bought a book many years ago before I got married. The title of the book is, Does This Dress Make Me Look Fat? Right? And many other questions that women ask their husbands. Does this dress make me look fat? And you see, when a woman asks you, does this dress make me look fat? Better help yourself not to answer yes, right? So if you want to answer, if actually it makes her look fat, you're going to have to answer in a very diplomatic way. You start with, hey, you look so stunning, amazing stuff. Wow, I love it. I love this dress on you and stuff. And then you talk about that, then she's beaming and all of that. And then you're like, but what do you think, right? Do you suppose that you're free in the dress, or do you suppose that it's pushing out in some places where you don't feel they should push out, and all of that? And then now you've taken the question back to the person, and so the person now says, "Oh wow, actually I was thinking it made me look fat, right? And I was actually thinking that it pushed out in some places." And you're like, "Oh yeah, okay. I think I would say I could trust your judgment, right? You are the one who knows how best, but it looks good, but it will look so much better, based on what you just said." So what did you do? You've actually pushed the responsibility to answer that question back to the person. Lest you start Third World War, particularly if you're a husband, all right? So you don't want to start Third World War. You want to ensure you live in peace with your husband or your wife, that kind of thing. So you answer the question diplomatically. But as time goes on, it gets to that point where you feel like, hey, you can be very, very free. You can actually speak, the truth. And then the person is able to understand that you're not saying it from a place of spite or mockery, or you're saying it from a place of helping them become better. So self-awareness is the very first key. The time I began to have beautiful relationships, somebody was saying to other people that, hey, if anybody hates JD, then that person, right? That person will most likely, not make heaven, right? So when the person said that, I was, it was kind of, funny to me. Like, how did this person think about this? And I know what the person said. The person said, JD is that person that we've seen that is able to manage all kinds of relationships and is able to manage them so well that people feel safe with him, that people feel, they feel safe. They feel they can be themselves. They can open up to him, and they feel that they can be the best version of themselves whenever they're around him. That he never doubts in the potentials of people. Like, even if every other person has said, forget, this person cannot amount to anything. Like, nah, if you go to JD, he's going to tell you that, all of us are on a journey. So the fact that you're not seeing anything good about this person right now does not mean that in 2 years' time, goodness will not come. But it didn't happen so easily. It happened because of a shift in my understanding of myself. The first thing I became convinced about was that I am a child of love. That was the first thing I became convinced about. I became convinced that I am a product of love. That love is my default lifestyle. Love is my default way of thinking. And love, there is a particular man that wrote about love. His name is Paul. And Paul wrote about love and used some descriptions for love. He said, love believeth all things. Love hopeth all things. Love endureth all things. Love does not puff up itself. And he said, love does not envy and all of that. And the moment my understanding was established in the fact that I was a child of love, a product of love, like an effulgence of love, it became so easy to see everybody with the eyes of love. So where people saw nothing valuable, I was able to see deeper and I could see value, because I also was at that point at some point. There was a point in my life, I felt like my life had no value. I felt so insecure. I felt like an imposter. I felt like somebody who always had to play catch up. That's because I was not raised with a silver spoon, right? I was intelligent, but my parents were not that boxed up, right? They were civil servants in the days of IBB and Abacha, right? And those who have parents who worked during those periods as civil servants, they might know what I'm trying to talk about. So it was when democracy through Obasanjo came that things changed for many civil servants, right? And so things were a bit difficult at home and stuff like that. I was at an event earlier today and I was mentioning the fact that I was meant to school in the US, but my visa application was denied twice, right? And so my dreams of becoming a neurosurgeon were kind of, terminated at that point in time. Anyway, that was, God helping me, because sincerely, I can't stand the sight of blood. If I see blood right now, something in me is twisting and feeling so uncomfortable, right? I could almost vomit, at the sight of blood. So I was thinking, maybe I wouldn't have been a good fit, as a doctor and all of that. But I found out that I could actually still be a doctor, but not a doctor of the body, but a doctor of the soul, right? So a lot of the things I'm doing right now, a lot of the teachings I do right now, help people to be healed in their souls and help them to be healthy in their souls. They know how to live their lives. They are able to break away from the wounds of the past. They're able to break away from all the different, limitations and stuff that holds them down, and all of that, right? Because of the things I now talk about and teach, right? So now, The self-awareness that I was loved, the self-awareness that I'm a child of love, changed my entire outlook on life. And before I knew it, it affected my relationship with mentors. It affected my relationship with peers. It affected my relationship with, mentees, subordinates, and all of that. Can I tell you for a truth? Last year was 2021. So there was this person that we had been talking for about, 18 months, but I've not seen her physically for about 18 months. And then the next thing was, this person called me in June, right, 2021, and began to speak to me and said, you are a different kind of person that I've been relating with many young people, like people with potential, but you are different. You are not looking for what to gain from people. You are rather looking for what to give to people. That of all the people that I've, mentored, she was telling me of all the people I've mentored and all of that, you stand out as that person who always goes over and beyond to help other people fulfill their potentials. But most other people are always looking for what they can get immediately. May I tell you that is still just a product of love. Love does not seek to get, it seeks to give. So remember, it was a self-audit that led me to that point where I realized that if I could have love in my life as my personality, as my configuration, then any relationship I find myself, I'm going to have the best of it. Young ladies are safe. They feel safe around me because they know the aura of love that oozes from me, that issues out from me, right? There was a particular day, this is actually very interesting. Somebody came to interview in my office, right? Somebody came to interview in my office. So I interviewed her. And then in fact, last year, it was during our anniversary, then this person decided to, share a sort of testimonial about our experience at the lab. And then she said, the first day she saw me, the first day she came into my office for the interview, that day she had planned to commit suicide. Matter of fact, the reason why she didn't commit it that morning was because she said she felt since she had promised that she would come for the interview, that she wanted to honor that interview as the last thing before she went to commit suicide. So she came to the interview with the mind that after I'm done, I'm going to kill myself. But when she entered my office, so this is what she said. She said, when she entered my office, what she saw was white light. She saw a bright light fill my office. And she was seeing that light oozing out from me, right? Now, this is in her words. I'm not the one who is saying this by myself. She was one that said it. So, and she's still available. She's serving right now. She's on service right now. So if anybody wants to confirm, right, I could share the number with you, right? So she said she saw light oozing out from me. And the light that was oozing out from me suddenly started to silence the voices that were telling her to go kill herself. And from that moment, right in my office, she said that the impulse, the push to kill herself died. And that lady, she came to the office in late 2018, right? And now she's on service, right? She's in Kwara State service. It means that I feel that light was actually the love, right? That was the core of my person that was oozing out. Now, I'm saying this to you very specifically because every relationship is built on a give and take kind of thing. But for you to have the best kind of relationships, you'd rather be the one who gives more, right, than gets. Be the one who doesn't think of relationships as transactional. What are you bringing to the table, right? If you are not bringing it to the table, just stay away. Now, let me give a quick analogy. Now, there's a young man that I went to Borno State for a meeting some years back, Maiduguri. I went to Maiduguri for a meeting some years back, and then I met this young man. And the young man, on the surface, it didn't look like, on the surface, it didn't look like somebody that could, help me at all, right? But I kept a relationship with him. I kept relating with him and all of that. until early this year, I was in Lagos for a meeting, and then he came for that meeting in Lagos. And then he just talked to me about the fact that he needed a job. And I said, oh, wow, like in what area? He said he needed one in agriculture. And I said, amazing, right? I have somebody who needs a farm manager, right? So I could just connect you to the person. And I did the connection, and then he got the job. Now, you see, it seemed as if I was not doing him a favor. So recently, he chatted me up on WhatsApp. Hello, sir. I have this person I want to connect you with. Like, I feel like this person needs you so much. This person, like, I feel like the project this person wants to execute, you must be on that project. Now, I'm not going to talk about the details of the project, but our project is mega. It is the kind of project I really love. I really have been dreaming to work on because it's major, right? And this young man was the one who connected me with the person in charge of the project. In essence, if when I saw him that he didn't seem to have anything to offer me, I didn't treat him right, it meant that he would never have turned around and recommended me for that major project. So when love is the key foundation of your journey into relationships, it is that will ensure that you don't take advantage of mentees. When somebody tells you that I want just a platonic relationship, if you feel like you cannot handle it as a platonic relationship, you're able to tell the person, I really, really appreciate you. I love you so much. I feel like what I have for you, I want it to lead to this and lead to this and lead to this. But since this is not part of what you're thinking of, I would rather just step away, for now, so that I don't put you in a difficult position, in a difficult situation. That is love in manifestation. You are doing it for that person's sake and not even necessarily for your own sake. So I just quickly said all of that as a background as we dive into the questions that I have here. So if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. I have some questions already curated here that I'm going to be answering one after the other. But if you have questions already, drop them in the chat, okay? Drop them in the chat. Amazing. So I'm going to be answering some that were submitted as part of the, registration. So I want to answer this first. How do I relate with people of higher social class? Interesting. I love this. Some days ago, I was on a session where I was teaching people about, ghostwriting, as a means of, earning significant income. And I needed to tell the people that were on that call that, hey, if you want to be a ghostwriter for high net worth individuals, you need to learn how to speak the language of that world, that kind of thing. So how do I relate with people of higher social status? The first thing you must know about people of higher social status is that in a way, they are intimidating. Just by their stand alone, they are intimidating. So if you are not sure of who you are most likely going to get so intimidated that you will lose your voice. The next thing is that most likely you will get molded in the image of those people. And then you lose your originality. However, the key to relating with people of higher social class or higher accomplishments is to have identified your identity. You must be very certain of who you are. For instance, I had this event with, Dan Olabi in Lautech just this evening. But while I went to get him at the airport, right, and we're driving down to Bomosho, he asked me a question. He said, hey, so where do you see yourself in some years' time and all of that? I said, hey, I'll be a counselor to governments. I'll be an advisor to governments and presidents in Africa. And then it was like, interesting. Why do you feel so? I said, I feel like my thought pattern, the way I think, is like I'm already thinking 10, 20 years ahead of my generation. And so if I'm already thinking 10, 20 years ahead of my generation right now, it means that in the next 10 years, I'm thinking already, another 20 years, that's already 30 years into the future. So what it means is that the kind of people that the new heads of states will want to listen to, because we will have a new crop of leaders who are credible, who desire to really lead their people aright. They'll begin to seek for the right kind of people that can make the difference, right, in their lives. And I believe I'll be there. I'll be one who has, by track record, proven that I am that kind of person that people listen to, and their lives, their communities are transformed. Now, that identity is so well rooted. That's what makes it possible for me to sit across somebody and have 15 minutes with a person, and I know the person's life can never remain the same. It's not a boast. It's just what it is. It's just the identity. So if today I meet Dangote, I most likely will not, be able to talk with him on the basis of the financial markets, how markets move and all of that. But I can speak with him about guiltless leadership, for instance, which is a topic that, I've not heard anybody teaching about it. I'm basically building the mental models for guiltless leadership right now, right? I'm having a book out very soon on that topic. It will be out very soon, guiltless leadership. How can you lead people? And no matter how large your company is, no matter how large the people following you are, you will never have any experience of guilt in how you relate with all of them. Now, in that one, I could actually lecture Dangote for 10 hours. I could take him through different mental models. And at the end of that conversation, he's going to stand astounded and say, hey, where did you come from? Now, how did I arrive there? One of the things I did was that I decided that my mates are not in my generation. The people that are my contemporaries are not necessarily in my generation. So you know what I did? I compressed all the years that man has existed, and I looked for the best specimens of men, right? The best specimens of men and women all over the millennia, the centuries, that did outstandingly well. And I looked at them and I said, if all these people were to come into a hall to sit down and ask me to speak, what can I say to them that will make them say, hey, we never heard something like this before? Now, if you have that kind of model in your mind, you can imagine how your mind will begin to work, because you will have to think of all that they've ever said. And you realize that, oh, wow, like these people were very profound. They were original people. So how do I now do something that makes them say, wow, you just added value to us. We never even knew that this could be applied in this way or that way. That identity that has been rooted in me now makes it easy for me to speak to any kind of person, right? In 2017, I was seated, across Lake Elder. I was dumbstruck for just a few seconds. And after that, I entered into the conversation, right? And I was able to ask the questions I needed to ask. I was, with Tokwe Sholubi, the founder of Sarah Energy, right? And I was able to conduct myself in a way that showed that I had an identity, right? Now, I'm just mentioning these people as, like just here and there. Some people speak with white people and they feel intimidated. I don't think I will be intimidated by any white person. Reason is because I know that me showing up, I'm bringing a gift to the table. So I needed to quickly answer that question. Oh, wow, we have so many questions here, but I'm hoping that I can actually touch on a significant level, number of questions. All right, so I'm going to look at questions in the chat. Okay. So is self-awareness just the key to relationship? No, obviously self-awareness is not just the key, but it's the foundation. If you're not self-aware, you can't actually, have a solid relationship with people. Most of the time, you will do things that offend them or that make them feel like you're taking them for granted and all of that, right? But for instance, in relationships, right, you have to have care. You have to care for the other person. You have to, you have to also hard work of, let's say, learning new things. Let me give an illustration. So, okay, let me give an illustration. So, I I remember, when I got married to my wife, before then, I'd eaten her food a few times. But when we got married, that was when the full weight of what it was, kind of like, exploded. Now, what happened? My wife loves hot and spicy food, right? Peppery food. And no time in my life did I live with anybody, right, that had, that cooked peppery foods. So here was I, married to this lovely woman, and then one day she serves me food, and as I'm eating, I'm sweating from my head, right? I'm sweating, and it's pouring, and then the next time I'm sniffing, I'm sniffing. And then I have to get, tissue paper to blow my nose. And then I have to open my mouth, And then I needed to get cold water, right, to cool my tongue. It was on fire. Man. But you see, this is what she grew up with. This is what she loves, right? So you know what I told her? I said, wow, delicious food. However, I didn't get to taste the food so well because my tongue was actually battling with a peppery food. And then she was like, oh, no. And then I was like, hey, do you know what we'll do? I actually feel that I need to learn how to eat peppery food. But you know what? Let's alternate it. So some days you give me peppery food. Some days let us, take non-peppery food. And that was how we progressed until now we have struck a balance. Right now, sometimes I eat peppery food. Some other people are doing, but I am saying, oh no, this is not peppery, right? What have I done? I had to learn. I had to meet her halfway, right? I had to show that, hey, I care for you so much that I'm willing to actually shift from my position to meet you halfway. And I'm so glad that she also chose to shift to my position. So right now, I believe that our children, will be able to manage both kinds of, foods, right? Peppery and non-peppery food. Because now their parents have moved halfway and are able to eat either of the two. But then there are some times when they cook peppery food, I have to beg and say, please excuse me today, right? Can I take something else? Because I realize that there are some times that when I take the peppery food, now the fact that it's peppery doesn't allow me to taste the food. So that means the effort that was put into making the food delicious is lost on me. So by that act of like taking a step to meet halfway and also being self-aware that, hey, I want to be able to say that this food is delicious and I don't want to have to, fake it, right? So I would rather say, can I be excused from this meal, today? Maybe some other time I'm going to take, like that. So what happens is that you are now able to meet them halfway. So care, compassion, watching out for the next person, building up your knowledge. These are all critical factors in building a great relationship. All right. So what can be done in a relationship when a lady gets emotionally attached to a mentor? So one of the things that I've learned is that illicit emotions or emotions that are vagabond, I call them vagabond emotions. Now, the reason why they are vagabond is that they don't respect the fact that you don't want to have them. They just show up. They don't take your excuse before you start having those emotions. They just show up. So they are vagabond, right? So one of the things that I've observed about those kind of emotions is that they thrive in secrecy. The moment that emotion is kept secret, it increases. And that's where a lot of people have missed it. A lot of people leave those emotions too late before they talk with other people about it. May I tell you that if you are having that emotion, you're getting emotionally attached to your mentor, look for somebody that you feel will feel bad that you are having that kind of emotion, but that person loves you. And go tell that person that I know this is difficult for me to do, but I need to do it. And I know that this might feel like, it might let you down, but I need to come and do it right now before it actually lets you down. I am having emotions for this person, and they are not healthy emotions. Now, by speaking out, the strength of that emotion is broken. Okay? The strength of that emotion is broken. Okay? By speaking out, the fact that you've spoken out breaks the oath of secrecy that normally keeps people in traps that now lead them down, into the ditch. All right? Give me Okay,
good evening, everyone.
By speaking about it, you have broken the strength of that emotion. Now, if you even want to go further, now with that person that you know loves you, and you are you have a lot of respect for that person, you can now tell. Now, you know why you are doing this. You are doing this for your mentor. Now, let me explain something. Your mentor is not strong. So some people can look at their mentors and feel like, these people, they are very strong people, like they can't experience, those kind of things. But that's what has brought a lot of mentors down too. When their mentees feel like they are supermen, right? They are superwomen, and they don't realize that they also could be vulnerable at different times. For instance, let me quickly say this, right, in passing, but I'll come back to what I'm saying. One of the things that helped me and my wife, right, stay, sexually pure till we got married was that whenever I went to visit her in our hostel, we were students together, my wife never dressed in a way that could make me start imagining things. So she would comport herself so well. She dressed so well. And it ensured that anytime I went to visit her, my emotions were not running riot. But had it been that, whenever I entered into a room or something like that, right, she was on, maybe she was on this see-through nightgown, or she was on this very skimpy, nightgown or something like that. I tell you, no matter how much we have said, hey, we're going to, stay pure and all of that, most likely we'll be the ones that would have, done and committed all kind of acts. We'll start, looking back and said, how did this happen? But we made it happen. So by that act of she realizing that, hey, my fiance could be vulnerable. And so because it could be vulnerable, I'm just going to comport myself anytime it shows up to my room. And by doing that, she spared us what could have been a lot of heartaches and stuff. So now let me go back to the mentor-mentee. Your mentor is not always strong. Matter of fact, sometimes your mentor could be having issues with his wife at home. And then at that point in time, if you also have been having emotions for him that are unchecked, he might just feel like, hey, I think this person understands me. So he calls you and starts talking with you. And then you are responding. And then the next thing is that he might begin to neglect his wife. And then you are now the center of affection, that is center of attraction. You don't want to be the reason why a family is broken, because you don't want somebody else to break your own family. So when you see those emotions already creeping in, you want to announce it to somebody that could help you to get your senses back. And then if you want to take it a bit further, have that person with you, maybe physically or on a call, and then to call your mentor, right? And that person talks to your mentor and says, hey, this person was feeling this way about you and all of that. Now, a true mentor will not feel surprised that a person could feel that way, but a true mentor will be glad that you spoke up. So what they're able to do is that they themselves will now begin to practice more self-awareness so that they don't say things or do things that will trigger those emotions. For instance, there are some female mentees of mine that I don't tell I love you, or I don't say hello dear. I don't use those things for them. But there are some I could tell them I love you. I could tell them hello dear and all of that. That's because I've been able to weigh their capability to receive those words and not start imagining different things. All right. So that's a very, very good way to ensure that you are not caught in the trap of emotions that you cannot control. Okay. Somebody's asking that, can we just speak to the mentor directly instead of talking to someone else about it? Now, the reason why I am saying that you might need to talk to someone else about it is possible that your mentor also has been developed. If it is happening that your mentor also has been developing emotions for you, to tell the mentor may be to strengthen the mentor's emotions. So the mentor says, oh, wow, so this person is also having the same feelings. So it can even become like fuel on fire that just boom, and then you find yourself in a greater mess. But when a third party is involved, it ensures that both you and your mentor are safe, right? In that sense of the word. Okay. So I believe you have gotten an answer to that if you're Lua. How do you know if your partner loves you? Is there a manual? So, well, love is not love if it does not give. One of the things that love does is that love wants to keep giving. Love wants to keep giving, right? Now, love is also not love when it is not patient. So it can be love. Somebody's asking you for sex when you're not married. I mean, that's not love. That's selfishness. That person wants to satisfy their own desires and they're not thinking about you, right? So that's selfishness. That's not love, right? That's not love too. Love is patient. So if you tell somebody that, hey, I love you, I know you love me, but I'm not yet ready, right? I'm not yet ready, right, for intimacy. Let's get into marriage before we get intimate. If a person tells you that, no, it means you don't love me. Let me tell you the truth. That person is selfish. Many a times, whenever people pressure you into sexual relationship, into sexual intimacy, as a means of proving that you love them, many a times, those relationships never end well. The moment the person gets what they want, suddenly, because for them also, it's always going to be an anticlimax. What I mean is that the person who is pressurizing you, pestering you for sex and all of that, they think they are going to get something from me that is out of this world. But the moment they have that, they have the intimacy with you and all of that, they come down from their eye and they realize that, oh, wow, like nothing really changed. So what happens is that they now start wanting to seek the same eye again and again. So it started from just this once, and then it becomes twice, and then it becomes 3 times, and then it becomes 10 times, and then it becomes uncountable. And then before we know it, it enters into the realm of abortions and stuff like that. That happens a lot. It happens a lot that people now begin to abort, right, for their boyfriends and stuff like that, just because they gave in one time, right? And that's why you need to tell the person that I love you. I don't want you to destroy your life. I don't want your mindset about sex to be warped. Many folks who get a wrong mindset about sex go into marriage thinking that, being in marriage will cure them of all the dysfunctionalities of their sexual life. But it's not true. Some people turn to masturbation thinking that masturbation will save them from, like promiscuity when they get, before they get married. But then they do that and then they get married and they realize that even though they now have a sexual partner in their spouses, yet they are not satisfied. Yet, they find themselves going back to that masturbation because they now realize that it is not so much about satisfaction, but more of an impulsive action. When you get married, hey, you're not going to be having sex every minute of the day, right? There are days, weeks that you might go without sex because you're both busy. So if you have not learned self-control before marriage, what happens when you now get married and then your wife just give birth? And then, 2 weeks before, she gave birth and maybe 3 weeks after she gave birth or even 1 month. Some ladies experience, they have to go through surgery, when they give birth. And so it might make it impossible for you to get intimate with them for up to 6 weeks. So what are you going to do at that point in time if you could not hold yourself before you got married? All right. So very, very important, right? Very, very important that, what was that question? That love is bounded by its rules. Love does not rejoice in evil, right? So there is this passage in the Bible that kind of, gives a lot of light about that. 1 Corinthians 13, right? It is timeless. It works for anybody, everybody. Love does not vaunt itself. Love does not seek its own. Amazing. That's love. It doesn't seek its own, but it seeks the good of others. So, with that, you can easily gauge whether your partner loves you or not, okay? So if your partner tells you no, when you're trying to ask for something that is not yet meant to be yours, then you should realize that this person loves me so much. Okay, so can you explain more on this term, defining every relationship and how it can be achieved? Well, to define relationship, so let me give an illustration. So many years ago, I had this female mentee, right? And it was like she was drinking my words in the sense that anytime I'm speaking, you could see her eyes light up, and she was just soaking everything in. And then one day, I saw that there was a new look in her eyes that was not just the awe of, wow, this person is so wise. I saw a new look in her eyes, and the look was, how I wish this person was mine. If you're self-aware, you can also know when a person has that look in their eyes, or when their actions around you is already pointing towards that direction. And I felt like, hey, I need to quickly draw boundaries here. So you know what I did? So the next day we were talking, I just said, hey, I need to talk to you about, my marital journey, how my journey is progressing maritally. I used to be very confused about who I would marry, but some time back, I found out who it was. And when I used the timeline I gave her, made her know that she had never entered my life, as at the time I had found who I was going to marry. So next day, I saw that look had cleared from her eyes. I helped her without, going direct, without saying that, hey, I can see you are infatuated with me. I didn't say that. I only helped her to quickly realize that, hey, I already have somebody who I'm going to get married to. And it helped her know that our relationship will always be a mentor-mentee relationship, right? So defining boundaries or defining relationship is very crucial, particularly when it comes to, male-female kind of things where emotions, could boil over at the slightest provocation. So you might need to be able to say, hey, I really want to experience friendship that has no strings attached. I want to experience friendship that doesn't have any conditions to it. I want to be your friend, and I want it to be that. All right. So let me see the next question. How can I develop a platonic relationship with someone who wants a romantic relationship with me? Well, I feel like this particular one, you might need to give the person some space so that they can recalibrate. A person wants a romantic relationship. You want a platonic relationship. I tell you, the force of a romantic drive is greater than the force of a platonic drive. So most likely, the person's romantic desires will overpower that relationship. So you need to give the person space for them to recalibrate, for them to deal with that, all right? And then you need to ensure that whenever you want to, even be within the same space with the person, make it open spaces. Make it open spaces. If you want to talk in the lecture hall, talk right in the, what's it called? In the, I don't know, like you could talk in a restaurant or something like that, but talk in open spaces. Don't talk in closed spaces. Because as I said, the force of romantic desires could be so great that people could lose their minds. And that's where rape has come in many situations where seemingly best friends, like this guy loves this girl, but the girl is saying, hey, I just want a platonic relationship with you. But this guy really loves, in quotes, romantic. He wants it to be more than platonic. And so they might find themselves in a room one day, and then the rush of passion just overpowers this guy, and he loses every sense of what is right and what is wrong. And then it just, like, his body is now what is driving him at that point in time. And all he wants is that he wants to have, sex. He wants to touch your body and all of that. Many a times, it is people that are in this situation. You want platonic, the person wants, romantic. is many of the times, a lot of rape cases come from this kind of situation where you do not respect the force of romantic desires. You feel like, hey, I can tell the person, stop. No, don't touch me. And the person will stop. Please don't be too trusting of the force. Don't disrespect the force of romantic desire. It could make a person who has always been an angel around you to turn around and overpower you, to rape you, right? If you don't respect that. So give space, right? And let the person recalibrate. It will be a very, very great thing for you to do. It will save you from a lot of heartache in the days ahead, all right? Next one, how do you keep a relationship thriving? For example, if I meet someone at an event, I related well at the event, shared contact, how do I continue such a relationship if I really wanted to continue? The reason I'm asking is because most times after 2 weeks or less, I notice most relationships like that ends. So one of the first rules when you go to conferences, don't be too intent on getting the contacts of 100 people, 50 people, 20 people. Matter of fact, even 10 people. Sometimes all the contact you need is just 5 people, and you have to be very intentional. Very, very intentional. Okay, I'm going to get 5 people. So something happened to me years ago in 2019. I was in Israel, right? I think in Nazareth or in Jerusalem. I've forgotten where exactly right now. And we had gone on a tour, and people from different parts of the world had come together. And so on the last day, I was seated around a breakfast table. So before then, I used to eat by myself. I would just sit down by myself because I wanted to spend that time reflecting. So I'll eat by myself. But I felt this last day, let me, get to know more people. So I sit around this table with all the other folks. There were 3 of them, right? 2 females, 1 male. And then, we just got talking, and then we got to introduce ourselves and all of that. And then the next thing I did was to ask for their, ask for their, addresses, their phone numbers, their contact. I think we all exchanged contact because what we did was, they asked, hey, what do you do? What do you do? And then I talked about what I did. And I was, hey, you do this? Okay. I really love to have your contact because I want to do this. And the fact that you do this makes me know that you're going to help me if I want to do this. So the 2 ladies got my contact. One is in Scotland, one is in England, right? So you know what I did? That very day, before my flight out of Israel, I sent a message to them. It was so great meeting you today. And I really love the fact that we could connect on this point, on this point, on this point. I look forward to us, taking this, relationship further, as I check on you from time to time. So when I got to Nigeria, I sent a message. Hey, I'm back home right now, right? Thank you for that amazing time around the breakfast table and stuff like that. Now, look at how you I think I related with about 10 people. Was it 10 people? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, about 6 people. I think I related about 6 people, 7 people. Very intimate. Until today, we have relationships that have been beneficial to all of us, right? From 2019 till now, right? We've had a relation that was beneficial. Why? Because what I did was I went with the mind that I wasn't interested in getting the contact of everybody. The ones that I exchange contacts with, I'm going to follow up immediately, reach out to them, tell them what I enjoyed about our conversation, tell them what I felt, struck me about their person. And they'll do, what happens when people read certain things like, wow, this person really took time to pay attention to what I was saying, right? Many a times, people want to jump into LOI, and then the next thing is they're expecting that the other person will be the one to, start talking. No, you have to do the work. And that's why, in fact, when you're meeting people for the first time, there are some certain questions you can ask. For instance, let me give you an analogy. So, Dan Owolabi is in Nigeria, is in Ogbomoso right now. So, about 3 months ago, we were on a call, a joint call, a conference call with other people. And then he mentioned his favorite food. So I tried to remember it, but I forgot. So there was another day when we were together it was just 2 of us in a chat room. And then we talked about our favorite foods again. He mentioned it again. Because I was not too familiar with it, it skipped my mind. I didn't remember it. But the moment, I knew he was coming to Nigeria, I knew I had to ask him again about that his favorite food. So I just stylishly asked him. I said, hey, what's the name of that your favorite food again? And then he told me, hey, this is the name. So I went on ShopRite's website and I searched for that, that food. I didn't see it. There was no result showed up that it was present in their inventory. I felt like, wow, what do I do? So I had this person, a mentor of mine, who was in the US at that time and who was coming back to Nigeria about 3 days after that. So I sent a message to her and I said, hey, this person is coming to Nigeria and I want to surprise him. Can you help me get this particular type of, stuff? And then you know what? She bought them and she brought them. So when he arrived in Ogbomoso yesterday, in his hotel room, I just brought the pack. And then I said, and, we brought this trail mix. And then as I brought the packs out of the, the package, he went, wow, you did this. He was so astounded. Like, he was dumbfounded, like, wow, you actually did this. And then I told him how we made it happen. And I'm like, wow, you did this. You know what? About 3 hours later, he had to send me a message again. Wow, Jamie, thank you for that. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. Now, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter if, we don't see each other again. What I know is that always in his mind, he will remember that somebody went out of the way to help him get what he had said was his favorite food, not considering the cost with which it was made available. People do not remember what you say. People remember how you made them feel. So if you want to have relations with people you meet in conferences, try to ensure that they feel good because of your presence. Compliment their perfume. Compliment, their dress. Compliment the way they spoke or the question they asked. Compliment their shoes. And you will realize that they will remember you. The moment you reach out to them, something will spring up in them that says, oh, that was the person that complimented. That was the person that made me feel good about myself. Okay, so I believe that has answered your question. Are you getting all these questions? Are you getting all these answers? Are the answers helping you? Okay, so how can I balance being respectful and yet being free and be with an older mentor? Amazing stuff. Well, in Nigeria's culture has a bit of more, we tilt more towards respect. But the Western world tilts towards more of being direct. So the Western world, they don't feel like you are being disrespectful if you tell them that, hey, you told me you were going to teach me about how to, tie my shoes. But when you taught me, I was confused. A Western mentor would not feel insulted by that. But a Nigerian mentor would feel insulted that, hey, after all the effort I put in, now you're still telling me that I didn't try. So how do you balance being respectful and yet being free and real with an older mentor? The first thing is that you must earn their trust. When a mentor has seen that you respect them truly, you're that trustworthy person that they can depend on to think through situations. Think through situation. Now, it might be in relation to yourself. So let me give an instance. So you are this person who your mentor has been, relating with over time. And then the mentor realizes that anytime they point out a mistake you have made, you don't defend yourself. You don't say, no, like that's not it, or that's not what I meant to, and all of that. You're only always saying, oh, wow, I didn't even see it that way. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma, for helping me spot this. As you keep doing this with an elderly mentor, they begin to realize that you trust them to be able to speak into your life, to correct you, to challenge you, to rebuke you, to give you the best counsel. Now they realize that they can be more direct with you. And then they also want you to be direct with them. So as time goes on, a mentor will be the one that will even ask you, don't don't be shy, right? Don't be, don't act coy with me. Just go straight to the point. The response I gave to that person, was it good or bad? And you're able to say, well, sir, from my understanding, I might not know the full details, the full background to why you responded that way. But I feel this person will be hurt because he actually did some things, but it failed in these other ways. I feel if you had told him that, hey, I appreciate the effort you made in this area, it would feel better before you now tell him that, and this area, I didn't like what you did. And then your mentor looks at you and says, interesting. Wow, I should have actually done that. If I had complimented this person first before telling them that, hey, what you're doing or this other thing is bad, they will have been able to receive my rebuke better, right? Now, you see how you've now arrived at a point where your mentor can trust you, right? Can trust you, can trust you with things, can trust you with you being truthful, you being straightforward. And that's because you have shown that you are not that kind of person that is seeking to, use another person to shine. You're not that kind of person that is always, how will I call it? Like escaping responsibility, like pushing away responsibility. You're not that kind of person that never admits you are wrong. But when a mentor sees that you admit you are wrong, you are willing to receive correction and all of that. Before you know it, they open up themselves to you to be able to speak with. A number of my folks at the office realize that they can speak to me now because over time, as they kept, as we kept relating, I always let them realize that, hey, I actually want to hear what you have to say about how I did this, how I did that, how I did that. And I see more and more of them doing that often. And I'm the better person for it. So a mentor will actually appreciate it when they have people who are their mentees, who can actually speak to them about things they can improve on. So there's a variation of that question. How can I balance being respectful and yet being free and real with an older mentor of the same gender that I love? That I love. Interesting. Love does not have to be corrupted. Love does not have to be romantic. Love could be pure. Love could be filial love. Love could be, what's it called? Agape love, which is that, hey, I love this person. For instance, I have a mentor, Mrs. Remi Odusi. I love her so much. I love her. I keep telling her I love her. But it is definitely because it's definitely just that love that I have, like for my mother, right? And I'm free without to tell her that. I'm free to put it on my status from time to time and say, hey, I love this woman, right? And the reason why I'm free is because I've just seen her as my mother, right? So the same way I celebrate my mother, the same way I tell her I love her, the same way I'm telling this this mentor, right? That kind of thing. Is it right to have an emotional attachment to an older mentor of the same gender? Could such attachment be right, or could it become an obsessive respect for the person? Yeah, so sometimes mentees could get obsessive with their mentors. They could get obsessed with their mentors. And that's not healthy. Because what it means is that, first of all, when you become obsessed with your mentor, you are no longer in the place to really learn as you should learn. A student is meant to be, when he's fully taught, should be like his master. So when you're obsessed with someone, most likely, you are not going to have a filter anymore. It means that you're going to embrace the person, good, bad, and ugly, and you would embrace their ugly parts that you should respectfully have refused to embrace. So when you're obsessed with someone, most likely, you're going to have the person fully duplicated in you, replicated in you. And that might not help for your own destiny, okay? But you can have a relationship that is healthy. Matter of fact, wow, I need to say this. So there's this concept that I've talked about a lot of times. It's called the prosperous soul, the prosperous soul. A prosperous soul is a healthy soul that keeps flourishing. A lot of times, the reason why we have many of these things is that some of us, like where we get obsessed over whether opposite gender or even same gender leaders and mentors and stuff like that, is because a lot of times our own parents didn't raise us to be comfortable with things like, expressing of love without it being the kind that you learned by reading Mills and Boons, by reading Ali Queen, right? Mills and Boons or Ali Queen, right? Many of us got shaped in our concept of love from books, from the internet, and not from our parents. So our parents were not waking us up to say, hey, I love you. You were not getting a peck on the cheek to say, oh, you look so good today. You're so amazing. So when that has not happened at home, what happens is that the healthy balance of how to actually love other people is most always missing. And that's why the first thing that you need to do, right? At this point, I need to talk about God. The first thing that you need to understand is that God is the only person that can give you the right posture of us, that can give you the right experience of love that other people can share in, other people can experience coming from you without them feeling like they're being smothered, without them feeling like they're being blanketed and oppressed by your emotional outpouring and stuff like that. Some people swing to the extreme of overdoing love. So people swing to the extreme of caring less about love, like they have no care about love and stuff like that. But you need to be in the center where you know how to regulate the giving and the receiving of love, that kind of thing. So you have to watch out for such obsessive attachments to anybody. It's not always healthy and it doesn't always end well. Please, sir, when as a lady you have lots of crushes? Oh, wow. I think what is happening with the person that asked this question is that a lot of times the reason why we have crushes is because we have painted a picture of the ideal person we want to love. We have painted a picture of the ideal person we want to marry or something like that. So anytime we see that, anybody that looks like that ideal we have painted in our hearts, the next thing is that we find ourselves just saying, could he be the one? Could he be the one? Oh, wow. I wish he could just, look at me and just, like me and stuff like that. The reason why you're going that route is because the first thing is that you have assumed that love is how another person looks and not how you look. For you to arrive at attracting the right person when the time has come, you should actually have an ideal of who you should be in the eyes of your mind, instead of having a picture of the man or the kind of man that you want to marry and stuff like that. Because if you have that ideal, right, in you, without you already having an ideal of yourself, what will happen is that if you see the people that look like that ideal of a man, you will want them to be attracted to you. But the person you are at that point is not fit for that ideal you have painted in your mind. That's because, first of all, you might not have the self-control you need to have as a person. Number two, you might not have the gravity of heart that allows you to engage in weighty conversations. If not, all your conversation will just be around the trends on social media and stuff like that. And before you know it, when there is no substance to the kind of conversations you have, in no time, a lot of things will go wrong. But when the picture in your mind is of the ideal person you're meant to be, you'll find that you are always growing every single day. And as you grow, what happens is that the picture you have in your mind most often changes. So somebody might have started with, I want somebody that has a Benz, right? Or a person that has a car, a house, is working in a bank and all of that. That's the picture a person has had. So he's tall, he's fair, he wears suits many of the times and stuff. And then while you are growing, it just gets to a point where you realize that, hey, I am somebody who is very serious. I need somebody who is less serious, right, than me, but who is also pursuing a grand goal. And then next year you discover that the person who is around you, who fits that bill of the person who is humorous and also, pursuing a grand goal, might be short, dark, right? And then if you have not shifted your gaze from a quote your ideal to the ideal you will discover that even if the person is under your nose, you will not know that the person is under your nose. You'd rather be looking for somebody else that looks like that, your ideal, right? And then what happens is that you might have gone through a series of heartbreaks because by the time they relate with you, right? Like they physically fit the bill. But by the time you start having conversations, you might discover that the depth they have doesn't look like the depth you have. But because you are already fixated on the external, you feel like you can change them to become like who you are. But most of the times, that's an exercise in futility. That's why some people will say, hey, is everything I want. But the only thing is that he's a chain smoker. He's a chain smoker. And then you say, hey, by the time I marry him, I'm going to change him. I'm sorry. You're most likely going to be the one that will be changed, right? Because a day will come, the person will ask you, do you want to choose between me and my cigarettes, right? And then the next thing you discover that you've invested so much, you can't leave the relationship. And so you continue with it. You are now a prisoner in your relationship, right? And then the next thing is, as time goes on, the person says, hey, I don't like the way you frown anytime I'm smoking. I mean, if you love me, you'll join me, right? Or you will rather, don't frown. Next thing, as time goes on, you will try to do it just, make him feel like, hey, I love you still and all of that. And before you know it, you're also smoking. A lot of people have started doing a lot of vices because of somebody they thought they could change, but who instead changed them. All right. Is there any other question that I have not read?
Yes,
I've
sir, there are.
Answered a lot of questions.
There is. Can I read them out?
Let me see. I think there are still some questions below. All right. There are still some questions below. So, what's your take on dating younger men? What's your take on dating younger men? Amazing. Interestingly, my wife is older than I am, right? So if you find out that the person, you're a female, and the person that you know that ticks all the boxes, you're persuaded that this is the person I should marry, this person will make my life beautiful, and they are older than you, and they are younger than you by some years. I tell you, age is a number. Age is just a number. If I don't tell people, people can never know my wife is older than I am. She's 11 months older than me. And I don't feel shy in talking about it because, it doesn't take anything away from me. It doesn't reduce me in any way. In fact, it's a beautiful thing. The fact that we're able to live without age even making, how many days of the year do you even remember how old you are? You hardly remember how old you are until maybe it's time for your birthday again. And then you remember, oh, wow, okay, so I'm going to be this year. This age and all of that. So I feel that age is a number. Like you can find the right person who ticks all the boxes, but who is younger than you. And you can have a beautiful relationship. You can have a beautiful marriage, right? I've heard of people who, the wife was 12 years older than the husband. And they lived a beautiful life, amazing life. Our culture, is very uncomfortable with that, but that's culture. Your culture is not the one that would live with you at home. It's not your culture that will live with you at home. The culture is for the general society. You can decide to create a culture for yourself within your own home, and that culture is a culture of respect, honor, right? Okay, let me quickly say something. Many years ago, my wife is beautiful, right? She's beautiful. But many years ago, I realized that, hey, I don't want the reason why I feel proud of my wife to just be because of her beauty and her brains. I need something more. And then you know what I began to desire? I began to desire to see the beauty of her soul. The beauty of her soul. And the day I saw it, wow, I was blown away. I felt like, wow, this woman has a beautiful spirit. This is what I really desire. This is what I need to always keep in my mind. Interestingly, I was telling my wife some weeks ago, I said, do you know that whenever I look at you, it is still the woman I married I see. I don't see you that you have grown a bit bigger because you have given birth to 3 children. Like, I see that she has added weight, but I don't see it also. So I see it and I don't see it. The person I'm always seeing is that beautiful spirit, that beautiful soul I saw many years ago, like about 10 years ago. I saw that beautiful soul. And so whether we grow to, 90 years old together and our faces get wrinkled, it's not the wrinkles I'll be seeing. I'll be seeing that beautiful soul still. So for me, that that resolved a whole lot of, age and all of that. Age is just a number. Age is just a number. I tell you the truth. So let's move to other questions. Okay. I have a phobia of marriage. Okay. I'm going to answer all the other questions. I have learned that to love is to be vulnerable, but I have a fear for vulnerability, which will affect how I relate with my romantic partner. How do I overcome this fear? Right. One of the things about the fear of vulnerability is that it imprisons you, right? The fear of vulnerability is a jailer. It jails you. That's because in a lot of other instances, I tell you that the fear of vulnerability can not only be affecting you as far as maritals are concerned, it's also going to be affecting you in stepping up to the plate when the demand is upon you. But the fact that you're scared of being, of messing up, of, being embarrassed, of being booed and all of that, right? That fear keeps you from doing the things you're meant to do, keeps you from taking those bold steps, keeps you from, daring, the things that you, somewhere in your heart, you feel like I can do this thing these people are doing, but you're fearful of failing. You're fearful of being embarrassed. So I feel like before you can move to the fear of vulnerability with your partner, why don't you take on 1 or 2 projects that you have been afraid of for a long time and then do them? If you've been afraid of public speaking, go and join Toastmasters, or, go and volunteer one day to speak at a secondary school or a primary school. Decide. You could go into a lecture hall if you're a student, go into the lecture halls, 1, 2, 1,000, and just go and speak to them. Kill that fear, face that fear head on. I tell you that before you know it, it will begin to flow towards the fear of vulnerability you have towards a partner. And then that begins to, change your life. Another thing I feel you could do is that you could actually work with another person who is like a counselor that can help you trace the roots of that your fear of vulnerability. Because sometimes it might have been that some of us saw our parents, that a father might have taken advantage of a mother because she was vulnerable. You might have heard stories from your friends where they told you about how somebody took advantage of them because they were vulnerable. And that might be the reason why you have that fear. So talk to a counselor that can help you identify the root of that fear, because the moment you can identify the roots, then it's easy for you to actually, defeat it. All right. I have a phobia of marriage. I'm scared it will lead me to lessening myself career-wise. The whole idea of submission makes me scared. What should I do? Interesting. Well, I feel that it might be because you see marriage as an obligation. That's why you are scared of it career-wise or scared of submission. When you see the beauty, and I think you need to really go read about people that have had beautiful marriages. Ibukawoshika is married and she has not been lessened career-wise. And she submits to her husband. That's the interesting thing, right? Ibukawoshika, right? She's a very popular person. So go listen to such people. Read biographies and autobiographies of people that have walked through their relationships. That are married, where both husband and wife are doing well. Read about, doing well, whether the husband is in a career or not, or the wife is in a career or not. There are some times that the husband is the one who is not in a career, and then the wife is the one who is more prominent, like Deborah and Lapidov, and they did well, right? Sometimes the woman gets into marriage, and suddenly she realized that, oh, wow, I really want to raise our children well. I'm going to take a break from work, right? Just to raise the children very well. And then after 5 years, 6 years, I'm going to go back to the workplace. That could happen. But until you see the beauty of marriage, load yourself with stories of beautiful marriages. Many a times, the reason why we have such fears is because we have heard so many bad stories. But I tell you, bad news only travels faster. But there are more examples of good marriages than you can ever imagine. So go look for people who are having beautiful marriages and interview them. Ask them how they did it. And before you know it, all those your phobias will dissolve, because you now see that some people actually dared it and they are, getting the best out of it. How can I relate with my parents when we have differing views? First of all, I've taught you about, relating with people who are higher than you and stuff like that. You can apply the same thing with your parents. One of the things I discovered with my own parents was that when they saw that let me give an instance. If your parents, right, were to observe you studying throughout the night, and they ask you, they observe you for 1 week, you're studying throughout the night, and they ask you that, why are you studying throughout the night? You don't have any exams. And you tell them that, I've been having this sense that I'll be a leader. And so I've been reading books on leadership. I want to be prepared for that day when I become a leader. You know what they do? They might not see anything, but they'll be amazed that, oh, wow, like this person is doing all night because they know they will become a leader someday. They file it away somewhere in their heads. The next time you go home, you buy a pack of juice for your father and your mother, and you say, I just brought this. Or if you don't have money for a pack of juice, you can buy cucumbers, or you can buy watermelon, right? And you take it home and you say, I brought it home. They're like, wow, like this child brought something home. Amazing. And then the next time, right? They didn't tell you to, let's say, clean the compound. You just realized that you had some free time, and then you started cleaning the compound. And then they asked you, but it's not your turn to clean the compound. And then you say, well, it's just because I have some free time. As you begin to do these things, respect for you begins to grow. That's how my parents began to respect me. They saw me doing some things that showed that I was thinking deeply about my life. And they want to start making some decisions that normally they should put their foot down and say, no. They realized that, no, this young man has shown us that he knows where he's going. He knows what he's doing. And so they supported me in basically all the counterintuitive, steps I took that people were saying, no, nobody does this is foolish. But they supported me in the process. And here we are, right? And so I'm going to answer just 2 more questions and they will be done. Somebody's asking that, can I share my WhatsApp number? I have a Telegram group. I'm going to type it in this chat right now. It's T. at some point. So you can check it. I have some recordings on that group as well that you can check out. So, okay, T.me. Great. That's that. I have always wanted to have a relation with opposite sex because I believe I can let love.
Yes, sir.
How can I achieve this? I'm an emotional person who gets attacked easily. As a result of the emotions, I shut myself out from them and really would like for things to change. Wow. I'm glad that you are self-aware this way. This self-awareness is very powerful. So I think what you can do is that if you have a group of friends, male friends, right, that you can agree to build a relationship with the females together such that you are not the only one interacting with the females, but you are in the company of other people interacting with them. That can reduce the amount of emotions that come up, right? Emotions basically, go haywire when you are just one-on-one. But when you're in a group setting, most of the times, there are different people that can help, serve as insulators, right? That help to ensure that the emotions don't spill over. So I think that is something you can do. I'm running because of time. At what extent can one be humorous without being taken for granted? Wow, that's a serious one. I think when people begin to tell you that it's too much, your own is too much, like try to just, take a step back. Their feedback is for you to reflect and say that, okay, they've told me that it's too much. Learn to respect that. As soon as you begin to learn to respect that, without people telling you that your own is too much, you will suddenly know when you're about to go too much, and then you will learn to stop. So take feedback very well. If you're already laughing, maybe you are pushing someone and the person is telling you that, please stop pushing me. Everything is not play. Just, kind of like, step back. As time goes on, as you keep receiving this feedback from people, in no time, internally, you will know how to judge things so that you won't take people for granted anymore. So I'm going to just stop here. Thank you so much for, being on this call. Thank you, everybody, for, staying with me till the end of this call. Thank you, Praise, for this privilege of speaking on your birthday. I consider it a great honor. And thank you, Marvelous, as well, for that moderation you were doing on the charts. Bless you all. Bless you all. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much, sir. I'm very sure that each and every one of us has been impacted by your teaching tonight. Please, if you have been impacted, can you comment on the chat section? Thank you very much, sir. Yes, please keep it coming. More thank yous, more thank yous, more thank yous. Please, I want everyone to please note the Telegram group. On the WhatsApp group, you can ask for the Telegram link, so it will be sent to the WhatsApp group for you to join. The other question, you can please send down your other questions on the Telegram group when you join. So thank you very, very much, everyone. Because of time, I will be calling on Praise Ogunleke to, give us the closing vote. So Praise, over to you. Please give us the closing vote. Hello, Praise.
Hello,
Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. First, I want to thank God for this very amazing privilege. I honestly do not take His presence in my life for granted. I'm really grateful to God. Then I want to appreciate JD for that very impactful session. I mean, that was massive. That exceeded my expectations. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. I mean, this means a lot to me, and I'm so grateful to have you join me on this platform. Thank you very much, sir. Very, very grateful. I pray that God continue to replenish you and you continue to move from strength to strength in Jesus' name. Thank you very much, JD. I'm so grateful. And to everybody that joined, thank you very much for participating. Thank you for deciding to take out time to celebrate my birthday with me. It's honestly a very big privilege and I'm grateful. So guys, I hope to see you some other time. And until then, please take good care of yourselves. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, so I'm done, Marvelous. Are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Praise. Thank you to everyone, to the about 90 persons that tuned in for this program. Today, Praise that impacted. Thank you very much, program. We would appreciate it if
Let's talk on WhatsApp.
you try to reach out to Praise, Mr Jesudamilare.
You're the one. Yeah. I think we can start going on.
Shall we?
Oh my God. Joining once again, I remain Marcus Agila.
Thank you.
All right.